Roberta Ahmanson has some more important things to say.
I know about important. Hello. I thought that I should have explained how I know Judith Herrin. In 1998 and 99, we took a year out and we traveled through California's other mother country. That would be Spain. We spent the whole fall in Spain and Portugal with our son and a tutor who is now in jail, but they're moving right along. No, the tutor. Fortunately, the son is not in jail. At least he wasn't when I got up this morning. Okay, haven't checked recently. Anyway, and then we in the spring, then we took a cruise ship all the way around South America in January, February, and March to see the other America, and then. We came home for Easter, and then we had planned to go to Turkey and Greece and Italy to be the other mother country, kind of. And it turned out that that was the year that the Americans, that would be us, I guess, bombed Belgrade on Orthodox Easter, which didn't go over big in Orthodox countries. And that meant that there were tens of thousands of people in the streets in Greece, and everybody was afraid for us to go because we were Americans. So we canceled Greece and we went to Italy and Turkey. It was the first time that we went, and it whetted my appetite. We subsequently took 2 trips to Turkey for 5 weeks at a time. And then a third trip for 2 weeks. Well, and then another, anyway, been to Turkey 5 times altogether. But getting my appetite whetted meant I knew that I knew absolutely nothing about the history of the church. And I'd also been getting to know that because of Tom Oden, who I'm going to say something about in a minute. And so I was looking for what to read. And I found, I don't know if Tom told me about, I don't know how I found the book because it was pre-internet searches. I found The Formation of Christendom by Judith Herrin. I read it. I also read Warren Treadgold's History of Byzantium, and I read some other stuff. I had questions and I wanted to meet Judith Herrin and ask her. So I had my staff try to find her, and they found her, and I found out last night that she turned it down twice. She confessed to me because she was very busy getting the Center for Hellenic Studies started at King's College, University of London, and why did she need to have lunch with someone she didn't even know from America, right? So, but finally, something convinced you, Judith. Yes. And so we had a memorable and, to my mind, wonderful lunch at the National Gallery, and I asked my questions. And every time after that, when we went back, Judith and I had lunch and had much to talk about and still do. And so that was how I got to know Judith Herrin. And one thing that Father Ambrose didn't mention that I want to mention is that Judith, I think the story is, and she will correct me if I'm wrong, that a janitor or someone working at King's asked you, what was Byzantine studies? And Judith thought, I need to write a book for that person. And so she wrote a book. In fact, you talk about it in the introduction, I think. She wrote a book called Byzantium, which became a bestseller. Now you try and do that. You know, a bestseller named Byzantium, translated into, I think, 26 languages? No, more than 5, though. 12, 12. Huh. So I just thought you all should know that. I mean, a bestseller named Byzantium. It's just great to know someone who could do that, Judith. Thank you. And her book, Ravenna, is doing very well, too, and has won several prizes, and I recommend it to you highly. I also wanted to mention how we knew Tom Oden. You're going to hear more about that. But Howard and I were always looking for people who understood what was going on in the world from a fairly deep level. And so a person in Washington, D.C. handed me a book called After Modernity What?, which Tom had originally written as Agenda for Theology. And I read the book, and I kept reading parts of it out loud to Howard. And I said, we need to meet this guy. And I don't know how many times Tom turned it down. Now, he's not here to tell me. But at any rate, we found a way to contact Thomas Oden, who was then teaching at Drew University. And we invited him and his wife out for the weekend. And they came, and Adrita was Tom's wife, and we had a lovely time. And then there was the memorable evening that we had dinner in our house, and then we were sitting, that house had a sunroom. We were sitting in the sunroom, and I asked Tom Oden what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. And Howard says,
that is a very expensive question.
yeah. So the upshot was he said he wanted to write a memoir, which he then wrote called Requiem, and he wanted to do something else. But his dream was to put together a commentary on the Bible drawn from the works of the fathers, but that would be accessible to pastors, lay teachers, and the educated, interested lay person who just wanted to encounter the church fathers. And Chris Hall will tell you why that mattered so much. And so the upshot of that was we said, well, give us a proposal. And the next thing we knew, there was a proposal for what became the Ancient Christian Commentary, which has, at last check, sold more than 800,000 copies. And it's in the who knew category. And also changed the face of patristics, frankly, because of it. So then we went, because we were interested in the fathers, and with this I will conclude. The first trip we took to Turkey was largely inspired by Tom. And it was 5 weeks, and Tom went for all 5 weeks. We all nearly died of salmonella. We got salmonella in Antakya. No, in Şanlıurfa. But then we were really sick in Antakya, like really sick. And so it was quite fun, actually. And but everywhere we'd stop, well, a poignant memory I have, and I still haven't read the essay, but I am going to before I die. We were in a bus in Pontus, which is the big central plain, which was the breadbasket of Anatolia, and one of the breadbaskets of the Roman Empire. And it's where the three great Cappadocian fathers come from: Basil the Great, and Gregory of Nazianzus, and Basil's brother, Gregory of Nyssa. And I think it's Nazianzus, but it's Nazianzus who wrote Flight into Pontus, right? Right? Okay, so we're in this bus. It's late afternoon when the light is golden. You know how that is? It's just perfect. And some people are sleeping in the bus, and we had this bus for 44 people, and the most we ever had was 10. It was a little interesting. Anyway, and also the bathroom was stopped up the whole trip, and anyway, so it was interesting in many ways. But we're sitting there, it's me and Tom, and he was talking about how happy he was to be there because he'd read this essay, and going across this land, he was seeing the place that Gregory had flown to when he was trying to escape being a bishop, which I guess anyone who is a bishop knows why he tried to escape it. And so the other thing that Howard said about that trip, which was quite fun, he said, because Tom had all these folders with information about the fathers who had come from Anatolia, and Howard said that Tom knew which church father had lived at every truck stop in Turkey. So he was trying to educate us about that. So that's how we came to know Tom Oden. And also the idea behind this day was that you would hear the story of someone's life and then hear a fine lecture out of the discipline that they practiced in their intellectual endeavors. So we've heard about Henry Chadwick. We had a stunning church history lecture, and we're going to have the same this afternoon. And before that, I want you to meet someone who's not speaking except for right now, which is Michael Glarup, who was head of the research team for the Ancient Christian Commentary. Is that correct? And he was also a student of Tom Hoden. He is now the director of the Center for Early African Christianity, which grew out of Tom's book that Judith mentioned, How Africa Shaped the Christian Mind. And he's going to make an offer. Right, Mike?
Yes. One of the last things that Tom and our team agreed to do before his passing was we created our own press. We realized that we did all this editing work all these years, we gained all these skills, and why pay someone else to do it for us to publish it? And especially since most Western publishers are about making money, and most authors are about being read. And so our biggest issue was we were working in Africa, and we knew there was just a lack of resources being put into the African seminaries and churches, and so we wanted to create resources for them that were inexpensive for us to take to them, because there's a lot of shipping problems like that. So we created a press called ICCS Press, which is the Institute for Classical Christian Studies. So we just produced a new book called Ancient Christianity, the Development of its Institutions and Practices. So this is by Angelo di Berardino, and he was the president of the Augustinianum in Rome for a number of years. And so this is basically 35 years of his lectures. His students have been asking him to put it into print. So we took these and he did it in Italian, we translated it, and we just published it. There's not many books that we read that we feel like we really learned something from, but Joel and I both came away saying, I didn't know that. And so this is a really great resource. So we're giving this copy to the Abbey, because I know you guys have a long relationship with Angelo di Berardino. And then second, if you use the code Verbo, VERBO, after the weekend that we're having here, you can get 50% off of any of the books that we sell. And so this book retails for $89.95. So if you would like that, Amazon sells it for $89 or $79. So, and then we also have the Historical Atlas of Ancient Christianity, which is a $130 book. So it's very useful if you're looking for that. So, thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you, Mike.